You're listening to the Greeks Gridiron. Now here's your host, Ethan Haristadoulou.
Good morning, everybody, and a happy Thursday to you all. I am Ethan Haristadoulou, and you are listening to the Greeks Gridiron. It's Week 15 of the NFL as the Rams and 49ers kick off another weekend of football, a divisional matchup that honestly has a lot of implications for both of these teams on the line in this game here. So as always, today we'll make our prediction for Thursday Night Football, and then the rest of the predictions will come out tomorrow, so make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss out. But, of course, diving in, make sure you comment down below. Let me hear from you all. Who do you got in this game here? Who's winning? Who's losing? Because honestly, with a loss for both of these teams, it complicates either one of their playoff hopes even further than it already is with the way the NFC is currently set up. But the Rams heading into San Francisco to take on the 49ers here. I think very easily the first thing you can look at here is the head coaching matchup. Two offensive masterminds in the NFL right now as Kyle Shanahan takes on Sean McVay. Two of again, the brightest offensive minds whose coaching trees are both starting to grow by the day, it feels like right now. And you have two offenses that are devised by these head coaches that love to confuse the opposing defenses with motions, whether it's pre-snap, whether it's, at the snap, whenever it may be, someone is typically moving prior to that ball getting put into the quarterback's hands on what feels like just about every play. If not, it's like every other play. But both of these offenses are top 3 in motion used each play overall, and then both are in the top 5 of offenses using motion directly at the snap. So there is plenty of confusion and gamesmanship going on between the two. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how these two go at it against each other. I think one big question that I have for this game here, because it's been a bit of a hot streak since week 8 for the Los Angeles Rams, is going to be if the 49ers are going to be able to slow down Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, because it's honestly been fairly difficult for just about anyone to slow them down since that week 8 return against the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, it's very clear that weekend, or that Thursday Night Football game rather, was the start of making this Rams team an actual potential playoff contender. Once they got back, everything changed for them. They were pretty good at running the football, but things really started to open up because now defenses had to respect the threat on the outside, both with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua lining up wherever they seemed to need to line up. Depending on the matchups here. Both of these wide receivers so far this season combining for 117 receptions, 1,365 yards, and 9 touchdowns. San Francisco will be put to the test. However, I do think if there's a team that can potentially match up well against them, it's the San Francisco 49ers team that is 3rd in yards per game allowed through the air, but also just 3rd in yards per game allowed to wide receivers overall as far as defending the pass goes. So a pretty good unit led by Deommodore Lenoir and Charvarius Ward over there, obviously with the return of Talanoa Hufanga last week as well. The secondary got some reinforcements, and they should be ready to go. But it is, I think, a very valid question to ask in matchups that I will be watching is just who's going to be lining up across from those two wide receivers. How do the 49ers plan on defending them? Because it's this season has completely flipped for Matthew Stafford, who had it felt like 2, maybe 3 touchdowns prior to their returns in week 8. And since then he is either tied or leads the league in touchdowns thrown. So, I mean, it's been a tale of two halves, essentially. You get from week 8 to now, tale of 2 seasons, basically, for Matthew Stafford and this Rams offense to this point here. The big thing, though, that I really think determines this matchup, and there's a lot of implications that go into it, more so on San Francisco's end, but I think something that is going to be a big determining factor here is going to be just the overall war in the trenches by both offenses and defensive lines. The reason I bring this up is because obviously questionable coming into this game here is going to be Nick Bosa, who's been banged up the last handful of weeks. If he's not playing, that could pose a bit of an issue because the Rams, whose offensive line has dealt with a lot of injuries this season, a lot of shuffling, just putting guys in different places, just due to necessity more than anything else, and play not being quite where they need it to be. It's gotten a lot better in Los Angeles the last few weeks, even last week. No sacks allowed, very low pressure numbers as well. The Rams offensive line seems like it's really starting to figure itself out, and if Nick Bosa is able to play, that should be a good boost for the 49ers here. Again, as of this recording, he's listed as questionable, and nobody seems to know if he's going to play or not yet. But if he's able to play, even if he's not, like, let's say he's playing at like 95%, 90%, maybe just not quite 100, his presence on the field alone will be a difference maker for this defense over there in San Francisco and being able to get after the quarterback. And then on the flip side of things, you of course have 49ers left tackle Trent Williams, who is going to be out for this game again, which could pose a problem for this offensive line in San Francisco. The Rams pass rush is kind of it's like kind of an enigma. It's a little bit weird because they get so much pressure game by game, fourth best in pressure rate in the NFL, led by, the young Jared Verse, who's like top 5 in pressures overall as an individual. And then of course, like Byron Young, Kobe Bryant, his rookie co-partner, Braden Fisk. Like, there's a lot to like about what this Rams defensive front is doing, especially against the pass and being able to get after quarterbacks and make them uncomfortable. They only have 28 sacks on the season. They haven't been the most consistent at getting the quarterback, but they do bring a ton of pressure. And for what it's worth, this has not been the best season for Brock Purdy. It's actually been a pretty up and down, I would say, like roller coaster-esque type of season. We've had a few games where he's thrown multiple interceptions and he's maybe just made some questionable decision making as things around him have been a little bit shaky for basically all season due to injuries, more so than anything else. This is definitely something worth keeping an eye on here, because if you get another bad game from Brock Purdy, an interception or two, Matthew Stafford is on a tear right now and it feels like can do no wrong with the football in his hands. So if you have Matthew Stafford slinging it to Kupp and Nakua on one side and Kyron Williams is having his way because the defense is backed up and has to take care of these two wide receivers, on the flip side of things, if Brock Purdy's uncomfortable, maybe finds himself throwing a bad throw or two in this game here because he's trying to make something happen with the offensive line struggling, that could be an issue for San Francisco. Now, despite all of that, we got to make a prediction. We got to pick who is going to come out on Thursday Night Football victorious in this matchup here. This one's tough. This one is really tough because there is still a piece of me that is hanging on to the 49ers' past success and wanting to believe that this is like the turning point. This is where they'll figure it out, put it together, and make a run towards the playoffs. But there's also another piece of me that has been very down on the 49ers and more down on the 49ers than a lot of people. When you go and watch my power rankings going back to very early in the season, I've had San Francisco sitting around the middle of the pack since like week 3 or 4, if I remember correctly. And that was far before anyone else. Like, I had people when San Fran was sitting at, I believe, like 1-2 and even 2-2 telling me that, I was dead wrong about this team and how could I have San Francisco so low? But they have done nothing but kind of prove me right to this point. And so there is a piece of me that, again, wants to hang on to the previous success and believe they're going to turn it around. But I really feel like injuries are just catching up with this team, and it's kind of an issue right now. As for the Rams, a team that I just can't really quite get a pulse on. They are that, if you watch my power rankings, the Jeff Fisher-esque team, a team hanging around 500 just on the outside looking into the playoffs type deal. But there are weeks where they come in and they look like they could be as good as a Super Bowl contender. And then there's other weeks where they drop games and you're just wondering what the hell is going on. Or they're like just struggling to pull off the win. I look back at like the Saints game as a prime example of that. So both of these teams are kind of a mixed bag to me. So this is a really tough Thursday Night Football game in my opinion, but I do have a feeling that, again, going back to that week 8 turning point for the Rams, that is what helped lead them to the position that they're in right now. And that is, if they continue to win and they need a couple of losses to break their way, they could find themselves in the playoffs. And for the 49ers, I've just seen too many struggles, too many players hurt, too many players missing time, and things just not going right for the team. This could be the turning point, but I think I am going to go Los Angeles Rams on this one. I'm not super confident on the selection. I think this is going to be a really tight contest between the two teams. It feels like it usually is when these two teams are like comparable that season. So I do like a tight contest. Rams win, something along the lines of maybe like 27-26. I think we might get some fireworks here, but I think this is going to be a fun one for Thursday Night Football, thankfully, because, not all the Thursday Night Football games have been great this year, but we have gotten some good ones. I think this is going to be another one of those good ones here, but the Rams right now just offensively feel a little bit more buttoned up and put together than what we've been seeing from the 49ers. I know they just crushed the Bears last week, but the Bears are in their own issues right now, so I think I like the Rams coming into this one here. But comment down below. Let me hear from you all. Who do you like in this matchup? Rams, 49ers, who's winning, who's losing, who's winning by what? Let me hear all of that in the comments below. And as always, if you made it to the end, greatly appreciate it. I'll catch you all next time. Have a good one.